Imagine a world of walled cities and powerful kingdoms, China's dynasties, the Islamic caliphates, and the knights of Europe. These were the great powers of the 13th century, confident in their walls and traditions. But a storm was gathering on the grasslands of Central Asia. A force unlike anything the world had seen was about to be unleashed. The Mongols. Born in the saddle, their world was the endless steppe, a sea of grass under a vast sky. They were tough, resilient, and moved like a force of nature. When they struck, it was as if a hurricane swept across continents, flattening cities and redrawing maps. For those who faced them, it must have felt like the end of the world. The Mongols didn't just win battles, they erased populations and reshaped empires. Their arrival shocked the world from the Pacific to Europe. They connected distant lands, often through brutal means. The Mongols' story is one of terrifying destruction, but also of innovation and connection. They changed everything, yet today, we often forget them. Their empire seems like a distant, brutal chapter, but their influence is still with us. They created new pathways for trade and ideas, spreading technologies and cultures across continents. They challenged the old world order and helped lay the foundations of the modern one. To understand our world, we must understand the Mongols. We have to return to the steppes and witness the birth of this world-changing storm. Their story deserves to be remembered, in all its terrifying and fascinating detail. This is the story of the Mongols, and how they changed the world forever.
If you're passionate about real history like this video, and join our growing community by subscribing. Who were the Mongols? Before their conquests, they were scattered, warring tribes living a harsh nomadic life on the Mongolian plateau. Their lives revolved around their herds and the seasons, making them incredibly hardy and self-reliant. Every Mongol was a rider and a warrior. Every woman managed the camp and herds. Their society was built around the horse. Mongol warriors learned to ride almost before they could walk. They could shoot with deadly accuracy from horseback, giving them a huge military advantage. While European knights were heavy and slow, Mongol cavalry was light, fast, and mobile. They mastered feigned retreats, ambushes, and psychological warfare. But for generations, these tribes fought each other, caught in cycles of raids and revenge. That changed with one man, Temujin. Born into hardship, Temujin's early life was marked by betrayal and survival. These struggles forged him into a brilliant, ruthless leader. He built alliances, rewarded loyalty, and punished betrayal without mercy. Through charisma and strategic genius, Temujin united the Mongol tribes. He broke old tribal structures, reorganizing his people by merit, not birth. He created a strict code of law, the Yasa, bringing order and discipline. In 1206, at a great assembly, he was named Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. For the first time, the Mongols were united under a single leader. Now they were ready to look outward. The world would never be the same. The age of Genghis Khan had begun. The Mongols were poised to conquer the world, and nothing could stop them.
With the tribes united, Genghis Khan unleashed his armies on the world. The Mongol war machine was disciplined, organized, and relentless. Their first major target, the Jin dynasty in northern China, with its massive cities and walls. The Mongols adapted quickly, learning siege warfare from captured engineers. They built catapults, battering rams, and even diverted rivers to flood cities. City after city fell before them. Next, Genghis Khan turned west to the Khwarezmian Empire, rulers of the Silk Road. After Mongol envoys were murdered, Genghis responded with overwhelming force. His armies split into columns, striking from multiple directions and razing entire cities. The Khwarezmian Empire was wiped off the map. After Genghis Khan's death, his sons and grandsons continued the expansion. They conquered the southern Song in China, united the country, and swept across Russia. They stormed into the Middle East, sacking Baghdad in 1258, a catastrophe for the Islamic world. The Mongols even reached Europe, crushing armies at Legnica and defeating the Hungarians. Panic spread across the continent. Europe seemed doomed. But the death of the great Khan Ogedei forced the Mongol princes to return home. The Mongol armies withdrew from Europe, never to return in force. The continent was spared. By chance, not by strength, the Mongol conquests had redrawn the map of Eurasia. Their legacy would shape the world for centuries. The Mongol storm had swept across the known world, and nothing would ever be the same. At its peak, the Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in history. It stretched from the Pacific coast of China to the Danube River in Europe, over 24 million square kilometers. The empire included China, Korea, Russia, Persia, Iraq, and much of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. After Genghis Khan's death, the empire was divided among his sons and grandsons into Khanates: Yuan China, the Golden Horde, the Ilkhanate, and Chagatai. For a time, these Khanates were united under a single great Khan, forming a vast political and economic system. The Mongol Empire connected lands that had never been linked before. For the first time, a merchant could travel from Venice to Beijing under one authority. This created an era of unprecedented contact between East and West. Marco Polo's legendary journey was possible because of the Mongol Empire. The empire became a massive conduit for exchange. Goods, ideas, technologies, and religions flowed across continents. Gunpowder, the printing press, and the compass traveled west. European art and science moved east. The world became smaller, more interconnected, and more dynamic. The Mongols had created the first truly global empire. Their reach changed the course of history. The world would never be as isolated again. The Mongol Empire had made the world one.
Loving these forgotten facts? Give this video a like, it really helps us bring more hidden history to light. The Mongols' conquests were marked by staggering brutality. When a city resisted, the Mongols often annihilated its population and destroyed its infrastructure. Historians estimate millions died during their campaigns. Some regions never recovered. Terror was a weapon survivors were sent ahead to spread fear, and biological warfare was used. This reputation for savagery often led cities to surrender without a fight. For those who lived through it, it was an age of terror and destruction. But there was another side. Once the conquests ended, the Mongols established the Pax Mongolica, a period of stability and order. They suppressed banditry, made roads safe, and allowed trade to flourish. The Silk Road was revitalized, becoming a superhighway for commerce. Goods, wealth, and ideas flowed across Eurasia as never before. The Mongols, once destroyers, became guardians of global trade. Their rule brought peace to lands long plagued by war. The world was more connected, prosperous, and secure. The Mongol legacy was both destruction and creation. They were feared conquerors and unexpected builders of a new world. The two faces of the Mongol horde changed history forever.
To rule their vast empire, the Mongols needed more than military might. They needed communication. Their solution, the Yam, a sophisticated postal system spanning continents. Relay stations every 25-30 miles provided fresh horses and supplies for messengers. Messages could travel over 200 miles a day, connecting the empire's farthest reaches. The Yam wasn't just for officials. Merchants and travelers with a paisa or golden passport could use it too. Marco Polo marveled at its efficiency, noting how the Great Khan received news from distant lands in days. The Yam allowed the Khans to rule, dispatch armies, and gather intelligence. It enabled the cultural and economic exchange of the Pax Mongolica. Later empires like the Russian Tsars copied the system. The Yam was a logistical masterpiece, a superhighway of information. It was the backbone of the Mongol world. Despite their reputation for brutality, the Mongols were remarkably tolerant of religion. Their traditional shamanism didn't prevent them from allowing conquered peoples to practice their own faiths. Genghis Khan's policy was religious freedom. As long as people prayed for him, they could worship as they wished. The Yasa law code granted tax exemptions to clergy of all major religions. In Karakoram, churches, mosques, and temples stood side by side. This tolerance fostered cultural exchange. Artisans, scholars, and scientists from across the empire gathered at the Mongol court. Chinese engineers taught Persians. Persian astronomers reformed the Chinese calendar. The Mongol Empire became a melting pot of cultures and ideas. Over time, Mongol rulers adopted local customs and religions, leading to the Khanate's distinct identities. This cultural assimilation helped fracture the empire, but also left a legacy of global exchange. The Mongols changed not just the world but themselves. Why did the Mongol Empire fall? Internal division was key. The empire was too vast and diverse to stay united. After Mongke Khan's death, civil war shattered unity, and the Khanates became rival kingdoms. Cultural assimilation deepened the divide, as Mongol rulers adopted local customs and religions. Then came catastrophe, the Black Death, spreading along the very trade routes the Mongols had created. The plague devastated populations and economies, weakening the Khanates beyond recovery. By the mid-1300s, the empire was in terminal decline. The Yuan dynasty fell to rebellion in China, the Ilkhanate collapsed in Persia, the Golden Horde faded in Russia, and the Chagatai Khanate fractured. The Great Mongol Storm had passed. The empire that changed the world dissolved into regional powers, but its impact would echo for centuries.
After their empire fell, the Mongols seemed to vanish from history. The people they conquered wrote the histories, often portraying the Mongols as mere barbarians. The Mongols left little physical evidence, no grand cities or monuments. Their legacy was in the connections they forged, not in stone. The world they created didn't last. The Silk Road became dangerous, and global connections faded. European powers, cut off from Asia, sought sea routes, ushering in the Age of Discovery. The Mongols' influence became woven into the fabric of later societies, less visible but profound. They redrew the map of Asia and Europe, spread technologies, and created the first global moment. Their story reminds us that history is often made by those on the margins. The Mongols, once forgotten, held the world in their hands for a brief, world-changing moment. Their legacy is a vital piece of our shared past. To understand our world, we must remember the Mongols. Their story is not just history, it's the story of us all.
History isn't always told by the builders. Sometimes it's told by the riders of the wind. If you enjoyed this journey, like the video, leave a comment with your thoughts on the Mongols, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold empires and forgotten worlds.